What's up, everybody? It's the beginning of the new school year, and I thought I'd chime in and give you my 2 cents as to what I've seen so far. Back to school already, and the problems have resumed. Not started, but they've resumed, and that's the major issue. I've said it before in previous videos, and we discussed these things with the parents at the school, and the parents here, they understand this, and first and foremost, above all, kudos to all parents who have their kids enrolled in martial arts classes, boxing classes, anything that has to do with self-defense. Because in essence, it's not just self-defense that they're learning, right? I mean, that's just a byproduct. I mean, what they're learning is so much more. This is all about personal growth at a very young age, and to take proprietorship of themselves. So, first and foremost, kudos to those parents. Parents that don't have their kids enrolled in a martial arts academy. This video might be for you. A lot of the stuff that we discuss with the parents over here, and we talk about the things that we see and that we experience, right? And a lot of these kids and parents, happen to, regardless of whether the kids are in the martial arts school, I mean, their kids they're here for a particular reason, right? And it's not an overnight affair. It takes a little while for changes to happen, for confidence to be built in a person. It's not like, I just started martial arts and all of a sudden I'm Bruce Lee. I'm a UFC champion and now I can go out and I can defend myself. It's a process. We're not light switches as human beings. We have to, slowly acclimate ourselves, to our fears, our stresses, and so on and so forth, before we can even go out and do, the thing that we so much want to do, which is confront, those fears. And like I said before in the previous video, I mean, those that trained throughout the summer are actually prepared for school, or those that didn't train throughout the summer, because it could have been either the parents' idea, especially if they were around the area, there's no excuses, or it was just a kid that just says, well, something, it's summertime and I just want to fool around. But the thing is that the kid doesn't know better, and unless it's a kid-run house, I mean, children should not be designating what is good for them and what is not good for them. They just don't know. They're just telling you what they like, what they feel. What they feel and what they like is not necessarily, the right thing. There's nothing wrong with them feeling what they like, but they also have to be educated and, and properly, explained why. And most of them won't get it either, but sometimes you have to just do what you need to do as a parent, right? So now you have the kids that took the summer off, and now they're back in school, and the problems have resumed. I'm not even going to begin to tell you some of the stories that I've heard so far, from some parents who are having an horrendous time trying to get their kids to go to school. Why are things changing to this degree? I don't know. I don't think I'm exaggerating, because I'm sure most people will talk to others and they'll see that it is very prevalent, and I think one of the biggest problems is the role of social media within young kids, and what effect it's had on them, So don't forget, they might have taken off from school, but that doesn't mean they've taken off from, what is being said around, especially if they have cell phones, if they have Instagram and chat snap and snap my chat or whatever it's called. So, and mothers encourage this shit. I mean, it's insane. You can sit and call me whatever, man. I mean, I see it. I hear it. I hear it around. I see it on my Facebook. I see it on my Instagram. You better block me because, I see this stuff and I talk about these type of examples. So when the children might be out of school, but they're not out of touch. When we finished school, we were completely out of touch with what went on in school. So we just resumed with our summer stuff, and that was it. So these kids don't have that. There's no relaxation of the mind. There's no, a stoppage, a pause. It just goes on and on and on. So if they did have problems, number one, the problem's not being addressed. Number two, it's constantly in their face. So now going back to school, prior to going back to school, they've already got this massive anxiety happening. It's unheard of to hear kids at 10 years old, 8 years old, 11 years old on medication for panic attacks. It's heartbreaking. It's mind-boggling. It's disturbing. I hear stuff like that, and it's very unsettling for me. I've dealt with kids for close to 30 years. I've been teaching kids, and it's not about teaching them how to punch out, a kick out, or whatever. Anybody can do that, and not everybody can do a good job of it either, in terms of that. But I mean, it's about a lot more. It's understanding how they are, and understanding how to relay a message across to them. How do they absorb information? How do they process information? When I see a kid come and say, well, or a parent come to me and say, I'm having a horrible time right now. We haven't even started school, and the problems have already begun. The first problem is the child doesn't want to go to school. It just doesn't want to go. That's the first problem. It's already encountered the problem prior of him or her stepping into the school. What do you do with that? Then there's the problem of when they go into the school. Here we go. Here's the problem that we left back in June to come and bite us in the butt again in the beginning of the year. And as time goes on, if these things are not caught, they're not attended to, they just get worse and worse and worse. And psychologists have, written tons of material on this, that, whatever problem a child has developed up until about 5 to 7 years old, it's reinforced as it goes on. It's an emotional, engravement in them. This is how they are, and this is how they will deal with stuff. And a lot of kids, maybe not most, but a lot of kids, maybe most, won't go and tell their parents the full story or how they really feel. They'll bottle it up inside. How about those kids that have committed suicide? I post them up on Facebook, as an example. Not to say, hey, listen, come to my school, because this is what's going to happen. No, but to show you that this problem is very, very real. These kids are not relaying messages to their parents. People are not hearing them. Well, they're not even expressing themselves, right? So that's an extreme case. We're not talking about extreme cases, but we are talking about cases where things become so bad that now it starts playing out in the kid's life. So the problem is now back in school and a resuming of the problem. And what these kids are going through is not an easy task to take care of, to alleviate. This is not something that will happen overnight. Number one, children must be confronted in a manner where they can feel confident enough to open up. They have to be dealt with certain professionals, and they must, and I say must, some people might just say, well, whatever, Aris, that's because you're biased. I'm not just biased. I mean, I've seen it in 30 years. The results of what martial arts programs will do to children, bullies and victims. They both have an effect on them. It does not make the bully more bullier. It actually humbles him down, and it gives the weaker individual, more confidence and strength, hence leveling out the playing field. Hence why in some countries like in China and Japan, they implement this in high schools and elementary schools, because, where the bully thought he was somebody tough, well, here comes the little guy who was forced to, meet the standards, whereas now he's technically just as good and also has gameness, has developed gameness inside of him, a confidence. Well, the bully is not the bully anymore. The thing is, kids must be enrolled in a martial arts environment because it's the only form of discipline that they will see. Sports is not a discipline. Martial arts is not necessarily a sport. We've turned it into a sport. People are trying to sell it as a sport. And I've seen kids come from other schools that come from the sport schools, the sport martial arts schools, and they have a hard time. They could be 5 years in another school. They can't come close to my kids who are 2 years in my school because we just function differently. It is not a sport. We treat it light. I mean, there's an approach to it, that makes it very, very likable. And as much as there's a challenge, people want to, need to eventually appreciate doing it. As kids, they only appreciate, except for the kids that are really gung-ho about it, very few kids appreciate hard work. You got to teach hard work in a kid. You got to teach them to respect what hard work does. So, most kids just don't want to do it. They want to kick a ball around. The parents have to be able to distinguish between what is a sport and what is a discipline. In order for kids to acquire a certain type of confidence within themselves, to be able to stand up in a way where, they can address the issue, they first need to acquire that confidence, their confidence of self. Most kids who don't, what usually winds up happening is they blow up in one direction or another. They're pushed to the limit where they implode or they explode. And then what happens? Well, they either implode and the worst happens to themselves. They just start becoming, self-abusive. Drugs, this, that, and they start going in that direction. And you can't tell me no, man. I've seen it all my life. I've been dealing with kids forever. Or they explode and they do something really stupid. They go to extreme levels where they will cause such damage to the other person that even that affects them negatively, where they're now responsible for where somebody who's got more confidence, he's learned, it's taken a certain amount of time for them to get to know themselves, face certain stresses within a safe environment. For like my school, for example. I can only speak about my school. I don't know about other schools, but I'll assume generally other schools too, where they feel safe in an environment where the teacher can help them run through these and navigate through themselves, through their inner self, to see what bothers them, what they're scared of, face those fears slowly, and slowly, and make sure that they're learning a functional martial art that teaches them how to take care of themselves, not just, just throws kicks and punches around, or even grappling, but can't expect what they're going to expect. So, and what happens with that type of individual is that he can measure, he's got variables as to how much he will, how much intensity he can use, and how much of what he's learned he can use, and he'll only use a certain amount and whatever he needs to get the job done. So the others will just explode or implode. An explosion is just doing something, others, like you see on Facebook, one kid grabbing a kid and just dumping him on his head type of thing because he's had enough. But let's say that kid breaks his neck. Everybody applauded that on the internet. On YouTube, everybody applauded that. They go, wow, man, this is like absolutely awesome. The bully got what he deserved. Let's say that bully's neck was snapped. Or concussion dead. What do you think happens to your kid? Juvenile detention, he's in juvie. You ain't gonna see him. Now your problems, as well as their problems, have started. Why? Because you thought you knew better. Not all parents know better for their kids. I, as a parent, can tell you I didn't know. I know my kids very well, but I didn't know better. You think you know what the kids want. We know on a general guideline, but there's just some stuff that you cannot instill in them. Somebody else will, and you need to find somebody that you trust to be able to do that. So, all in all, because it's a big conversation, I just don't want to bore you guys, especially with the lack of attention, attention span that's out there. If you've gotten this far into the video, well, kudos to you guys. Maybe you've picked up on something. This is a big discussion, and I'll touch a little bit more on it, but just to say that the problems have already begun. I think it's important that parents understand that there's the difference between having a sport, which is very important, because even the Spartans at the end of the day needed to go and relax and do something leisure, and they went and they played field hockey. You do the research, you'll see it. They played field hockey. That's what it is. Even they did, yes, but they distinguished between entertainment, to entertain themselves, and even that built a little camaraderie. But don't forget, these people fought and trained together. You understand? There's no competition between them on a regular basis like that. They needed to train, they relied on each other, right? And then there's a difference, they distinguish between that and discipline, their training, that which made them grow as human beings, grow internally, externally, mentally, emotionally. Everything comes as one, as a package. We come as a full package. Parents need to be able to distinguish one from the other. And we'll touch on that a little later on, because I think it's an issue that most parents need to understand why. Because everybody has their own misconception about, well, He's disciplined, he's focused, he's he's not focused. He's touching on a completely different side of him. And it has nothing to do with individual growth. It has to do with a group growth. He's going to have plenty of time to work as a group outside in society. He's going to have to deal with society anyways. He deals with it in class. He needs to be built as an individual. She needs to be built on it as an individual. So I recommend, first and foremost, for those that have already begun with problems, go see a professional. Not the school counselor. School counselors are not necessarily equipped. There's nothing personal between them and the children. The school counselor can only do so much. You need to go see if you find yourself in a position where your child has a serious problem. Now it's time to, let go of yourself for a second. Take the attention away from yourself and your selfies and stuff, and your girls' night out and partying and this, and focus on what your kid needs. I'm not talking about all the moms. I know some absolutely awesome moms here. And just listen to your child. Don't interpret what your child is saying. Listen to what your kid is saying. Listen attentively. Focus on and try to figure out what is it, because they have a lot of fear inside of them. And then go see a professional. Once you go see a professional, you have to go check out martial arts schools. I'll give you 1 week, as I give everybody. 1 week. In 1 week, you can see everything what we do in here. It sells itself. In 1 week, I'm not planning on putting my best foot forward, for 1 day, just so you can see what it is. And then after a couple of months later, you're going, 1 week, you'll see what it's like. You get to talk to parents. You get to see the kids within a 1 week span to see exactly what goes on. And then take it from there. So, all that just to say that life goes on. Just because the summer kicks in doesn't mean the problems end. As you can see, for those that have begun school and their kids already begun the problems, it's time to wake up to this. I hope you have enjoyed this bit of information. If you find it useful, please share, pass it on, and talk about it. And give me a call when you want, when you guys are ready. 514-814-5191. I'm on Curie Labelle, corner of Elizabeth 1500. Nighttime, I'm usually here after 5:30, and you can't miss us. I mean, we're the ones with the lights on and all the people are going on. So until next time, I wish you guys a great day and a great beginning of the fall season and the back to school season, and be very, very patient with your kids and learn the difference between personal growth, which is much more important than entertainment. Until next time, peace.